Imagine standing at the edge of a mountain trail where the air feels thinner, not because of altitude, but because of the stories people whisper there. Stories about the hikers who vanished without warning, and the one discovery that made even the most seasoned rangers swear they would never climb those cliffs again. This is not a tale of a wild animal attack, nor is it a story of someone simply losing their way. This is something else. Something that watches from above. Something that chooses who disappears and who survives. It begins with a young hiker, full of life, confidence, and the kind of excitement only untouched wilderness can give. She was last seen stepping into the tall pines, sunlight flickering through the branches, her backpack secure, her smile calm. Nothing looked wrong. Nothing felt wrong. But every survivor of the mountains says the same thing. The wild doesn't warn you before it strikes. And sometimes, it doesn't strike like you expect. Hours passed. Daylight began to fade. When she didn't return by evening, her family assumed she stopped to camp. But morning came, and still nothing. Rangers launched the first search at sunrise. Dogs brought out, helicopters sweeping the ridge, radios cracking with tension. They searched ravines, cliffs, animal dens, every place a person could logically be. But logic was useless here. Her tracks ended abruptly in the soft soil, as if she simply lifted off the ground and vanished into thin air. The search stretched into days. Then weeks. Rangers who usually cracked jokes during missions stayed silent. They all felt something watching them, something high above. And even though the skies looked empty, every gust of wind felt wrong. Like wings too large to be seen were circling. Then, one afternoon, a veteran ranger, the kind who doesn't scare easily, spotted something far up a sheer cliff face. A massive circle of branches, not a small nest, a fortress-sized structure woven into a ledge no human could ever climb without ropes. He felt a chill run down his back. No eagle builds something that big. No eagle carries branches thicker than a man's arm. What kind of creature lives there? They climbed toward it, every step heavier than the last. As they approached the nest, a smell hit them, not of decay, not exactly, but something old. Something wild, something that didn't belong in the modern world. The ranger's flashlight beam swept across the huge bowl of branches and froze. Clothing. Bright red fabric tangled in the sticks. Dirt smeared across fabric that looked violently torn, like something dragged it, and then something, metallic reflected light. A scratched, half-dead, but still showing its last location, ping. At a spot, far from where her trail ended, something had carried it or carried her. Then the ranger saw the bones, not scattered like an animal kill, arranged, placed, organized in a shape that looked almost deliberate. Birds don't do that. Predators don't do that. Something else had touched those bones. Something with intention. Before they could process what they were seeing, a shadow swept across them. Not fast, slow, enormous. The kind of shadow that should belong to a creature extinct for thousands of years. The ranger felt the air pressure change as if massive wings had passed overhead. No sound followed. No cry, no flapping, just a presence. Leaving as silently as it arrived, they pulled back immediately, hearts slamming in their chests. When they looked again, the nest seemed even bigger, like it wasn't made for an eagle at all, but something far larger, something that hunts from the sky, not by instinct, but by choice. Authorities tried to hide the photos. They tried to claim it was digital manipulation. But the rangers knew what they saw. The nest wasn't just a nest, it was a message, a warning. And when the investigators reviewed the smartwatch footage, the final seconds showed something impossible. A massive shadow descending over the girl, the camera shaking violently, and then a flash before the recording cut off forever. But the most disturbing part, the nest wasn't empty when rangers returned days later. It had grown. As if whatever lived there had come back, as if it knew the humans had found its secret, and as if it was preparing to hunt again. The forest fell unnaturally silent the moment the rangers approached the cliff again. As if every living thing knew, something was returning, something they weren't meant to witness. Even the winds seemed to avoid the ridge, skirting around it like the air itself refused to disturb whatever claimed that ledge as its home. The lead ranger felt the weight of the mountain pressing against him, the kind of pressure people describe only when a predator is close. A predator they can't see. They climbed slowly, ropes scraping against the rock, boots kicking stones loose. Each time a pebble fell, the sound echoed far too long, bouncing down the cliff like something was waiting to hear it. By the time they reached the ledge again, the sun had dipped low, casting long shadows across the valley, turning the nest into a dark silhouette against the dying light. But there was something new, something that hadn't been there before. A second circle, another nest being built only a few feet away. This one was smaller, but the branches were woven tighter, denser, almost like it was being prepared for something freshly taken, something not yet returned. The ranger's breath caught in his chest as he scanned the area. The torn red fabric remained, but it had been pushed aside. The bones that had been arranged like a symbol were gone, completely gone, as if someone or something had retrieved them. The ranger felt the primal urge to run, but his duty forced him to step closer. He lifted his flashlight, the beam trembling. It landed on the new nest, and inside it, he saw something that drained every drop of warmth from his body. A piece of fabric, light blue, a color the missing girl had been wearing. He recognized it immediately. Before he could speak, a low vibration hummed through the ground beneath their feet. Not a growl, not movement, a deep, resonant hum that traveled up their bones, like the mountain itself was warning them. The younger ranger stumbled backward, grabbing his partner's arm. The hum continued, rising slowly, vibrating through the ledge until loose stones lifted and trembled. Then it stopped. Dead silence. Not a bird call, not wind, nothing. They knew they were being watched. They could feel it, a gaze heavy enough to bruise. The lead ranger turned his head slowly, scanning the sky. Nothing but empty blue dusk. But the dread didn't come from above. It came from the tree line far across the valley. He lifted the binoculars. At first, he saw nothing, just shifting shadows. Then he saw it. Two glowing shapes between the trees. Not eyes, not exactly. More like reflections, large, circular reflections. As if something enormous was hiding in the pines, staring back across the valley at them, watching, waiting. That the ranger lowered the binoculars, heart slamming in his ribs. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The younger ranger had seen them too. They began backing away from the nest, trying not to make sudden movements. But the moment they stepped off the ledge and clipped their harnesses to the rope, a powerful gust blasted across the cliff. So strong it nearly ripped one of them from the rock. The wind carried a smell, sharp, metallic, like hot iron mixed with blood. A smell no bird should produce. They didn't climb. They didn't rappel. They fled. They didn't speak until they reached the tree line again, lungs burning. And when they finally radioed their superiors, they didn't describe what they saw. They didn't mention the second nest. They didn't mention the fabric. They didn't mention the glowing shapes, because they knew nobody would believe them. And deep inside, they didn't want to believe it either. But later that night, something happened that forced the entire search team to confront the impossible. The smartwatch, the one found in the first nest, suddenly synced to cell service. Sent one final GPS ping. Not from the ledge. Not from the valley. But from thousands of feet above sea level. The signal placed it in open air. Hovering. Moving. Fast. As if something had taken it back into the sky. As if whatever circled the mountains wasn't just hunting, but returning home with something new. And at 3:43 a.m., every ranger's phone buzzed at once. A photo had automatically uploaded from the smartwatch's cloud. Backup. A blurry image. Sky. A shadow. And beneath it, the shape of wings wider than any living bird. The shape of something holding a human form. And the caption, written by the missing girl minutes before she vanished. The rangers stared at the photo long after the screen dimmed, none daring to turn their phones face down. No one wanted to be the first to look away from the evidence, because once they did, once they accepted what they were seeing, they would have to face the terrifying truth. Something was alive out there. Something capable of lifting a grown human being straight into the sky without leaving a single trace behind. By sunrise, the base camp felt like a war zone. Radios snapped with frantic chatter. Helicopters were fueled and waiting. And the rangers who had spent decades patrolling those mountains moved with a fear they had never shown before. Nobody slept. Nobody ate. Everyone waited for someone else to say what they were all thinking. But the words sat heavy in the air. Unspoken, because if they said it out loud, it became real. When the head ranger stepped forward, his face pale as granite, the camp finally quieted. "We're going back up," he said. "And this time, we're not going alone." He wasn't talking about reinforcements. He wasn't talking about more rangers or police. He meant the helicopters, all of them. They were going to sweep the ridge, circle the peaks, search the sky itself. Because for the first time in recorded history, they weren't hunting on land. They were hunting above it. The helicopters lifted off, blades chopping through the morning cold. The mountains stretched endlessly beneath them, rugged, shadowed, silent. The rangers scanned every canyon, every cliff, every slab of stone. Nothing. No movement. No creature. No sign of wings. Then the radio crackled. "Up, command. This is Eagle 1. We're picking something up on thermal." The head ranger leaned over the pilot's shoulder as the thermal camera flickered on screen. At first, it showed nothing but cold stone. Then something hot bled into view. A massive heat signature, too large to be a person, too wide to be a mountain lion. And moving across the ridge with impossible smoothness, "It's on the ledge." The pilot whispered. The ledge where the nest was. The helicopters moved closer. Blades thundering, rotors chopping the crisp air. The thermal blob shifted, almost as if reacting to the sound. Then it stretched, expanded, unfolded, like massive wings rising from the earth. Impossible. One ranger breathed. The cameras switched to optical zoom. Branches cracked. Something huge shifted in the nest. A wing unfurled, dark and leathery, not feathered. Another followed, unfolding like a shadow, stretching across the mountain. The creature's form was massive, larger than any known bird on earth. But its wings weren't shaped like a bird's. They were jagged, ancient, like the wings of something that belonged to a world before humans ever existed. Then the creature looked up. It didn't flap its wings. It didn't screech. It didn't react like an animal startled by noise. It stared directly into the helicopter. The head ranger felt the temperature inside the cabin drop. Its eyes weren't animal. They were deep, reflective, almost intelligent, like it recognized them, like it remembered them. The creature stepped forward. Back up now. Someone shouted. The pilot pulled the helicopter into reverse. But it was too late. The creature launched itself skyward with a single, deafening surge of air. Not clumsy, not chaotic, deliberate, powerful, controlled. The downdraft hit the helicopter so hard it jerked sideways. Alarm screamed. The horizon spun. Hold it steady. The pilot fought the controls, teeth clenched, as the rotor blades sliced the air inches from the cliff face. The creature soared upward, circling the helicopter in a wide arc, its shadow swallowing the sun for a heartbeat. Where is it? I've lost visual turn. The pilot banked left, eyes scanning the sky. Something slammed the tail. Metal shrieked. The helicopter lurched violently. It's attacking us. The creature shot past the cockpit in a blur of dark wings, but this time the cameras caught a clearer glimpse. A long, scaled tail, talons the size of a man's forearm, and wings that shimmered with a strange, almost metallic sheen. This isn't a bird. Someone screamed. This isn't anything we know. The creature circled once more. Then it dove straight at them. The pilot braced. The Rangers gripped their harnesses, and for a moment, every person in that helicopter felt the cold certainty of death. But the creature didn't hit them at the last second. It veered sharply and soared into the clouds, vanishing as if it had dissolved into the sky itself. The helicopter spun in its wake, battered but intact. The radios erupted in panic from the other aircraft. Whatever that was, it's moving fast. It's heading west, no, north, no, damn it. It's too fast. Is anyone getting visual? No sign, wait. Something's dropping from above. A heavy thud hit the canopy of the lead helicopter. A ranger screamed. A piece of fabric was sliding down the glass. Light blue, the same color as the missing girl's clothing. And then, tangled in the fabric as it slid across the screen, a single feather, enormous, black, edged with metallic silver, impossible. The head ranger picked it up with trembling hands. His breath caught in his throat. It wasn't a feather, it was something closer to a scale. The scale felt warm in the ranger's hands. Not like something pulled from a nest, not like something dropped from the sky and chilled by altitude. Warm, like it came from a living body moments ago. He held it with both palms, afraid it might burn straight through his gloves. The edges were sharp, razor-thin, shimmering in the sunlight as if each ridge held its own pulse. When he tilted it slightly, it caught the light and glowed, not naturally, but like it was absorbing the sun rather than reflecting it. Nobody spoke. Everyone in the helicopter stared at it, the blades thumping overhead, the radios crackling with panicked voices from the other aircraft. But inside that cabin, silence ruled heavy. Suffocating, the kind that crushes the human voice under the weight of something ancient and unknown. The scale vibrated. Just once, a tiny tremor, almost too small to feel, like a heartbeat from a creature too large for the human mind to comprehend. The ranger nearly dropped it. The younger ranger recoiled, pressing against the cabin wall. Did that just? It moved, the head ranger whispered. The pilot swallowed hard. We're landing. Now. No, the head ranger said. If we land, we're grounded. We lose visibility. We lose the sky. And it's in the sky, before anyone could respond. A booming sound echoed across the peaks. A deep, rolling thunder that didn't belong to weather. The pilot scanned the horizon, but the sky was clear. No clouds, no storm, nothing but sunlight and distant ridge. Yet the sound grew louder, vibrating through the helicopter's frame, shaking the very air around them. Another helicopter shouted over the radio. Something just passed under us. Fast. Too fast to track. It's circling. I see it. No, it's gonna wear to the toe. My God. Static swallowed the transmission. Then a scream. High. Sharp. Cut off instantly. The pilot turned the helicopter sharply toward the source. A second aircraft was tilting, spiraling, its tail rotor shredded like paper. Smoke burst from its engine as it spun downward, a helpless pinwheel of metal and panic. No, pull up. It clipped the side of a cliff, exploded in a fireball, and vanished into the valley below. The head ranger's voice cracked. It's killing us. One by one, the radios exploded with more chaotic shouting. It's above you. No visual. I have something huge. Wings extended, it's diving. Brace BR silence. The third helicopter went dark on the radar. The creature wasn't hunting, it was eliminating threats. The pilot's hands shook on the controls. We have to get out of here, or we're next. No. The head ranger's voice was barely audible, but firm. It's not attacking us randomly. It's defending something. The younger ranger shook his head violently. Defending what? That nest? That ledge? No, the head ranger whispered. Something else. He looked down at the scale. It wasn't building a second nest. For prey, he swallowed hard, voice trembling. It was preparing it for something new. Something coming. The cabin fell silent again. Then the pilot said the words no one wanted to hear. It's right behind us. Every ranger turned. Outside the rear window, far off but closing fast, a dark shape glided across the horizon. Wings spread impossibly wide, body streamlined like a living arrow, tail slicing through the air with deadly elegance. It didn't flap, it didn't struggle. It moved with the effortless control of something born in the sky before humans ever existed. But something was different now. It wasn't alone. 3 smaller silhouettes followed in formation behind it, juvenile shapes. Smaller wings, clumsier movement, but growing stronger with every pass. They were learning, practicing, training. The mountain beast wasn't just hunting, it was teaching its young how to hunt. The head ranger clutched the scale tightly. My God, it's a family. The pilot slammed the throttle forward. Mayday, this is Eagle 1. Returning to base at full, his voice stopped. Every alarm in the cockpit blared at once. The helicopter shook violently as a massive gust slammed into it, rocking it sideways. The creature was closer now. Close enough for them to see the ridges on its wings. Close enough to see the intelligence in its eyes. Close enough to understand that they were no longer the hunters in these mountains. They were the prey. The pilot pushed the helicopter harder than it had ever flown. The engine straining, the rotors whining, every bolt vibrating so violently it felt like the aircraft would tear apart. The valley blurred below them as they blasted through the thinning mountain air. But no matter how fast they went, the creature was faster. The head ranger looked out the window and saw it closing the distance with terrifying ease. Wings slicing the wind as if it were gliding through water. Behind it, the 3 younger ones followed, less graceful, but hungry, determined, learning with every second. Their shadows crawled across the mountains, swallowing the ground beneath them. They're going to surround us, the pilot whispered. The head ranger knew he was right. The creature wasn't charging blindly. It was herding them, steering them, exactly where it wanted them to go. Turn south. The ranger ordered. No, that leads straight into the canyon. Exactly, we need cover. The pilot didn't hesitate. He banked the helicopter hard to the left, the valley spinning, mountains rising like jagged spears around them. The creatures followed, circling above, shadows flickering over the canyon walls. The youngest one dove too early, smacking a wing against the stone wall and screeching in frustration. The older ones corrected it, guiding it back into formation. They weren't just hunting, they were teaching how to strike from the air without crashing. The helicopter dropped into the narrow canyon. The walls were tight, barely wide enough for the rotors. The pilot maneuvered with desperate precision, blades inches from scraping the rock. For one moment, just one, the creatures vanished from sight. Then the canyon darkened. All 4 descended together, folding their wings to slip between the walls like shadows dripping down stone. Their bodies skimmed past the rock edges with perfect control, never slowing, eyes locked onto the helicopter. They're adapting. The younger ranger gasped. The head ranger suddenly understood the truth. They've done this before. The canyon widened abruptly into a vast bowl-shaped basin. Tall cliffs circled it like an arena carved by giants. The helicopter burst into the open sky and froze. Dozens of nests covered the cliffs. Huge ones, small ones, some old sun-bleached and crumbling, others fresh, woven tightly, filled with shimmering scales and bones, arranged in chilling patterns. The creatures hadn't appeared out of nowhere. They had been here for centuries, maybe longer. This is where they live. The head ranger whispered, voice hollow. A breeding ground, a sanctuary. The creatures fanned out, blocking every exit. The mother, the largest, hovered directly ahead, wings stretched wide. The smaller ones circled behind the helicopter. Cutting off the canyon they'd entered through. There was no escape. The pilot gripped the controls. We're not making it out of here, are we? The head ranger stared at the scale in his hand. It didn't attack us because we threatened it. He looked up, meeting the creature's eyes through the glass. It attacked us because we found this place. The mother creature dipped its wings, slightly a deliberate, intelligent motion, a warning, a final command. Leave. Never. Return. Forget this place, or die. The pilot made a decision that no one questioned. He pulled the nose of the helicopter upward, not toward an exit, not toward safety, but straight up into the narrow gap between 2 towering cliffs. The only path the creatures weren't blocking. Engines roaring, blades screaming. The helicopter shot upward just as the creatures lunged. Talons scraped along the side. A wingtip clipped the tail. Warning lights exploded across the dashboard. The younger ranger cried out as the helicopter spun, then steadied, then clawed its way higher. The cliffs rushed past them in a blur. The creatures followed. The mother gained first. Her shadow stretching across the helicopter, she opened her jaws not to bite, but to unleash a sound so ancient, so deep, that it rattled the bones of every living thing in the aircraft. A warning, a promise, come back, it seemed to say, and we will finish the hunt. The helicopter burst out of the canyon, into open sky, into sunlight. The creatures stopped at the edge. They didn't cross. They hovered there, staring, wings spread wide. Guardians of a hidden world humanity was never meant to witness. Then, one by one, they turned back, gliding silently toward the basin, disappearing into the secret kingdom among the peaks. The pilot flew until the mountains shrank behind them, until the radio towers came into view. Until the world felt normal again, though nothing would ever be normal for them anymore. When they landed, the helicopter groaned like a dying animal. Mechanics rushed forward. Medics followed. Reporters swarmed. But the Rangers said nothing, not because they were told to stay silent, but because no one would believe them. The head ranger walked away from the crowd, opened his trembling hand, and looked at the scale one last time. It was cold now, dark, 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 lifeless, as if whatever power it held had returned to its owner. He placed it in a steel evidence box, locked it twice, and whispered, "We saw nothing. And if we value human life, no one ever should." The case of the vanished hiker was closed quietly, file sealed, area restricted, story buried. But late at night, when the winds sweep down from the highest peaks, some rangers swear they still hear the beating of massive wings, and a cry from a creature older than the mountains themselves, warning them not to climb too high.